Welcome to the Amen Podcast, where all men from all walks of life, backgrounds, and ages can obtain the tools on how to become alpha men from a Christ-centered perspective in today's society. Here's your host, Jimmy Greer.
All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in again to the Amen Podcast. I've got Big Joe back in the studio with us today, and we are going to be talking about the mindset, the grit, getting that plan, getting that goal, that physical challenge, and just kind of walking down that path and discovery of what it's like to do something physically challenging with another guy, and the benefits of that. But before we get into that, I just want to give you guys kind of like a quick food for thought, if you will. Here at Amen Podcast, what we always try to do is we try to hit all the different aspects of spiritual, mental, and physical. And so I thought it to serve you well, go ahead and read from Romans 5, starting at verse 3, and see how this bites at you. Okay, so we've got. But that's not all. Even in times of trouble, we have a joyful confidence knowing that our pressures will develop in us patience and endurance. And patience, endurance will refine our character, and proven character leads us back to hope. And this hope is not a disappointing fantasy because we can now experience the endless love of God cascading into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who lives in us. Now, with that being said, I've got a couple other things that I wanted to drop in front of you and see what you think about this. And then I'll ask Joe about this. So in Hebrew, fatherhood means strength of the home. So fathers, if you're single, you're a father, you're a leader, this applies to you. This is who we're trying to reach here and trying to get some information to. Now, this one is definitely up Joe's alley here, and I'm going to give Joe a chance here to respond to this. You haven't heard this before, but this hit me between the eyes, man. It was like front side focus. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so good. The man who loves walking will get further than the man who only seeks the destination. Embrace the suck and carry on. The difficulty of the challenge determines the quality of the man who comes out the other side. What do you think about that, Joe?
It's profound.
Is it not?
I dig it.
Does it sound like you're on top of a mountaintop and there's snow caps over there and you're looking down and you know where you came from and it's like 10 to 15,000 feet in the air and you're just like, that's the kind of man I am. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think in life in general, it's so easy to not see beyond your own nose, like what's immediately in front of you, and you just lose the big picture on what's out there and where you're going. I really like that passage from Romans, though, and I think the punchline is it's never comfortable to be in the crucible, right? And to have those trials by fire and pressure, but it makes you a stronger person across the board, whether it's spiritually or physically. So living in the crucible and appreciating it for what it is in that moment, I think is really important.
I think so too. I think that when you get into the word endurance, and I always tell people, and they kind of laugh at me, and I say, well, God's an endurance fan. You do know that, you're right. You know that it's not like there's nothing that says it's all about the sprint. It's about endurance. And so when you're into that mental, that physical, or even that spiritual challenge, that endurance, if you address it right and you position yourself right, it's going to bring things out of you, and that's why I thought it was so important. Guys, Joe and I today, we're going to cover some ins and outs and just kind of the I don't want to say tutelage, but it kind of is of different people that we've subjected ourselves to and just kind of learn the ins and outs of, number one, challenging ourselves, but to how we science that, at our age, because I'm obviously at a different age than Joe is. And so we have to do things differently and inject things, obviously when I say inject, I'm not talking about needle, but just put into our body and our system, that's going to help us perform and do the things that we want to do and continue doing for years to come. So, but let's talk about mindset. And I think this is a big topic that not a lot of guys really think about, because it transfers into so many different areas of life, right? It doesn't matter if it's in the marketplace. It doesn't matter if it's spiritual. It doesn't matter if it's physical. Mm-hmm. How important is that to you, Joe?
It's the foundation. If you don't have direction and grounding, like the rest of it, you're going to have problems with. Yeah, I'm still dwelling on that Romans passage. That was good.
It's pretty good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you get into different translations, so like a New Living Translation, New International Version, there's also, let's see here, what we got. There's so many. There's World Translation. There's American Standard. There's New King James. They all. When I say a variation, a lot of people go, "Oh, well, that's what, how the Bible gets misinterpreted." No, it's not. It's misinterpreted. It's like somebody from the South and somebody from the West Coast saying the exact same thing, but they have their own way of saying it, right?
Yep.
That's what I try to put
That's
it as, right? So when I think about mindset and really building that grit, I think that any man can do that, and men should do that. I think the grit is something that's grown. I think it's something that's developed. But it also comes down to a choice. Like, am I going to sit on my couch, eat my food, become a slob, and just be okay with that? And I use those terms very, very specifically because that's what we do as men sometimes in life. And I'm a perfect example of that. I was 270 pounds, overweight, like pre-heart attack, pre-diabetic. I was slob. It was bad. I got complacent in my mindset was where it was at. Now, I don't know where you were at, before you became Joe. When I say Joe, I mean the Joe we know right now. Was Joe always like this? That's what I'm curious to know.
Oh man, that's so good. I started lifting weights, I think, when I was 6 years old.
Did you really?
Oh, yeah. Remember back in the early 80s, the rowing machine that would fold up and slide under your bed?
Yes.
Yeah. My mom and dad had one, and I would drag it into my room, and I'd sit there, and I had my little 4-pound dumbbells, and I'd be doing curls on my side of my bed. And it's always been something I've been interested in. Okay. I mean, I've had, like you and I've talked about, I've had highs and lows. Yeah. And I think when you and I started working out, when I was at my high, I was at like 215 and just, I don't know. I felt
like 5%, 6% body
no,
fat.
I was like 20 something.
Were you? You were 20? You didn't look it.
My weights fluctuated a lot. So
okay.
But going back to mindset, it's like I picked a direction and the lane that I wanted to be in, and I just stuck with it. Kind of like sitting on the couch and I'm a big YouTube fan and watching a motivational deal. Like if I'm 3 minutes in on a motivational thing, I just shut it down, hop off the couch, and I go do something.
You're done.
Oh yeah. I don't want to be that person or that guy. I want to accomplish things.
So now that we step into that, so how do you think that applies? You're a guy tuning in today, and let's say you're 25. Let's say between the ages of 35 and 45, and then there's my age bracket, between 50 and 60 years of age. Now, depending on where you're at in life, I think that sometimes, it's when we're younger, I think that a lot of our habits are what we create or what environment we grew up in are big impacts of that. Mm-hmm. But I think that when you become a student of that process of saying, I'm going to set a goal, I'm going to have that mindset, right? That's what we have to do. I think that men just, they lack that kind of that push or that shove, right? So the guy that's sitting around, this is ultimately what I'm getting at. The guy that's sitting around, he's a student, right? let's go that route. He's a student. He's a gamer. I don't know. I'm just picking this out of the hat here. So he's a gamer, and he's eating everything in front of him that has sugar and starch and flour and a bunch of carbs in it. And he realizes, he kicks back and he goes, "Dude, I'm breathing hard. I can't even go up a mountain or even let alone a flight of stairs because I'm out of shape, but I'm out of shape because of what I'm eating, what I'm not doing." Right. So how would you say to that guy that's tuning in, that college age, let's say that that 20 to, I don't know, maybe 28-year-old guy, what are some of the things that you would suggest to somebody to get that mindset and get that plan going to change your physical well-being and your mental well-being?
It starts with everything. I think starts with keeping it simple. And I certainly didn't come up with this, but there's a motivational speaker. It was a lady. I don't remember her name, but I remember what she said because I use it every single day. Is she said, in the morning, don't lounge around in bed and stick on your phone and doom scroll through Instagram forever, right? You need to start your day. And she said, think of like a space shuttle getting ready to take off, and you have 3, 2, 1. And when the one, you say one mentally, feet on the floor.
Right.
And you need to start your day. And so every morning, sometimes I struggle getting out of bed because I get up super early, but I do that 3, 2, 1 drill, and that starts my day, and I just get off and going.
And then you go on your 2 mile jog walk every day. Every day, nonstop. If it's rain or shine.
Rain or shine.
I love it. I got
my beanie on when it gets cold, my gloves, and I have a Space Kitty fanny pack to stick my phone in now. So yeah, it's all.
Dude, I love that.
I'm not a complicated person, and just again that 3, 2, 1, whatever it is in life, just start it.
Done.
Do it.
Done. Have you heard that? Please don't kill me, guys in the Navy, if I misquote his rank. I want to say either commander or maybe he was an admiral. I'm not sure which one. But he has that. He made a book out of it too, and it's called Make Your Bed.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Yes.
I actually have that bookmarked.
Do you?
I don't know how many times I've watched it. It was so good.
Really?
It's not something I could let go off in the mist.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, even if you do the short video of that and you listen to that, dude, you're ready to go. You're like, I'm not going to be a slob today. I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to go make my bed.
Yep.
Right? You can do that one task. Then you can go ahead and write out your next task. What's my goal? Okay, I'm gonna meal prep. Right? I'm going to set a physical challenge or workout goal, right? So those mindsets. Guys, one of the things that Joe and I do throughout our week is we train together, we work out together, but there's a goal in place. And I always ask this question of people in the gym, and I say, if you're going to work out and you're going to train and pay the money for all of that, like, if you added up all of your supplements that you take, right? Your pre-work, the whole kit and caboodle, right? Even down to your shoes that you're going to do, plus your gym membership that you pay. Why would you just do that just to be doing it? So, I just want to stay in shape. I'm like, okay. That's like saying, I want to go build, you know what a sand rail is, right? Okay. It's like saying, I want to buy a sand rail and then just let it sit in the garage. Why would you spend all that money pouring into it to make it a performance vehicle that goes really fast and crazy on the sand and not use it? It doesn't make sense, right? So I ask him, I say, so why aren't you putting it to the test? Well, I don't want to. And I said, to me, and this is just me, and I'm not hating on nobody. I'm not putting anybody down by any stretch of that word. It just means that why wouldn't you want to do that? So touch on that, Joe, if you could, on what you think a person should do if they're going to spend that time and money. What should they be doing to really put themselves to that test?
Well, with anything in life, you need to have a plan, right? Just sliding through your day and not having direction or knowing when you walk in the door exactly what you're going to do. I don't know. I don't feel a sense of accomplishment if I don't have a plan. So it doesn't need to be like super structured, like you and I are going to do, X of this or Y of that. It's just, these are the things that I'm going to hit on, and I'm not going to walk out the door until they're done.
Right. So do you meal plan, right?
Yep, Cookie and I meal prep. When we started doing it in 2018.
Cookie's your wife, right?
Cookie's my wife.
Here's your wife.
My best friend.
If you guys haven't caught that in the last episode, that's Joe's wife.
Best friend in the whole galaxy. She's amazing.
Yeah.
At first, the nutritionist was like, here's what your macros, your proteins, fats, and carbs are going to be. And it sounded so complicated. But now we do it together. And I don't know how to cook, but I can clean, I can shop.
Yeah.
I can get the scale out and all that kind of stuff. So it's also a good part of our relationship that we do together.
Oh, that's good. That's always good. Now, married guys, listen to that, because that's a very simple tool that Joe's talking about. Because when you're talking about doing something together, I think couples really find, and I did mean to offshoot, it was just that really caught my attention. Couples have a really difficult time trying to find that common ground in something that they enjoy doing together, because usually they're so diverse and contrasted, right? Well, I like football, watching, football on Sundays. Well, one might be, I don't know, gosh. I mean, the wife, I hate to put it in this category, but say, I just like shopping, right? Well, what do you like shopping for, right? Is it for the house? Is it for yourself? Is it for the kids? Is it, for me, or, whatever it is, I don't know. For some women, it might be like, well, I like going wine tasting, right? Well, maybe you might have a husband who, got delivered from a drinking, addiction. There's those different things. To find that common ground, it can be tough. But do you find that brings you guys a lot closer and builds your relationship?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Having common ground, common interests, things to talk about, things that we're both equally passionate about. I mean, there's I think there's only one thing that like she likes watching, like the Real Housewives shows.
Does she?
Oh man. When that comes on the TV, I just get up and walk out.
You're like, I'm done.
I can't do it.
You're like,
I love you, but
it's fake. It just feels like Fake City, right? And you're just like, this is insanity. I can't watch this, right?
But yes, having us doing things together, and it just helps for the family nutrition is to be healthy, and again having a plan and knowing exactly what we need to cook for the week. It's awesome. It makes lunch and dinner really easy.
So how does that? Oh gosh, what's the word? How does that transfer for your workouts during the week and just for your work period? Because you balance that work and gym life, schedule. How does that help you perform as far as just your meal prep?
It keeps me on point. So I know, how many grams of protein I need, and I know how I feel if I don't have enough carbs,
right?
Or I'm around I call it my number.
Yeah.
And it sounds complicated. I just have a little.
It's your Jenny Craig number. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Hello, 1982.
Yeah.
I have a little Post-it note, and then just throughout the day, I just mark off I had 20 grams or whatever.
Okay.
And then I know right before our workout session is going to start where I need to be.
Yeah.
And just again having a plan.
Right.
And sticking with it, and then 90% of the time, it pays off, and I feel great when I leave the gym. The sense of accomplishment, right? To go in with, here's what I'm going to attack, and to leave and know that I checked all the boxes.
So checking the boxes in regards to your meal prep is one of the building blocks for your success. Are you ready to become the strongest version of yourself, Alpha Men? Meet Paul Watson, a military veteran. Paul knows the importance of physical fitness, mental and physical toughness, and the role it plays in one's overall health and well-being. That's why I'm proud to recommend Warrior Fitness, a fitness program designed to help you become the strongest version of yourself. Whether you're looking for elite military selection training, including endurance and strength training, group classes, individualized training, and personalized diet plan development, we're here to help you achieve your fitness goals. Our experienced trainers understand the value of hard work and perseverance, and they will work with you to push your limits and achieve new heights. Join our community of warriors and take on a new challenge that will help you to build strength, increase your endurance, and improve your overall health. With Warrior Fitness, you'll discover a new sense of discipline, resilience, and pride. Sign up today and let's take on the challenge together. Check them out at their Fresno location at 8039 North Cedar Avenue, Fresno, California, 93720, or on the web on Instagram and Facebook. Or if you want to just give them a call, go ahead, 559-242-2570. Stay alpha in the gym.
Yep.
And this is going to be a domino effect when we get to the DECA conversation. So now you're in the workout. You're getting prepped for the workout. What does that look like for you?
Well, let's see. I'm 44, so my flexibility is not quite what it was. So making
Wish
sure
I was 44. Oh my gosh.
making sure I'm hydrated. Yeah. My diet's where it needs to be, and then making sure that I take time before I hit the red line and to stretch.
Stretching. And so do you take, what supplements do you take beforehand, if any?
Before I work out,
Yeah.
there's, I guess, 3 products. Actually, now there's 4
Right,
products.
right.
Hey.
Right, I was waiting for that one.
So the ones I've used is Vitargo is like a carb powder, no loading. It's kind of like being a DJ. You need a little more bass or a little more treble or hit the fader.
Okay.
If I need to just have carbs, so it'll be carbs, some pre-workout, and then on the first episode, I forget the gentleman's name offhand.
It's Coldrosa.
Yes.
Yes.
Man, that guy is rad.
Savage.
That's the use I'm going to use.
Yeah.
Rad.
Yeah, capital R.
But he was talking about beetroot powder. And I remember I was listening to the episode and I was pulling up to the stoplight and I literally grabbed my phone and I pulled up Amazon real quick.
Wait a minute.
And that has been the truth. That's really been a game changer.
Is that gold?
Game changer.
Okay, do you remember what the name of it is?
Alt Red.
Alt Red. They're made by Sur.
Sur. S-U-R.
S-U-R, yes. And I told Cole on that episode as well is that that on race day, that's the go-go juice because I'm not going to say it changes your world. I would say, and you could agree or disagree with this because of how. First of all, guys, alpha men out there, you got to pay attention to this. What works for Joe may not work for me. It's like a pair of shoes. He may like Brooks. I'm definitely a Hoka guy. Maybe the Brooks don't really work for me the way that they work for him. So goes, how we, inject enhancers into us to make us perform better, right? So how did that impact you on DECA Day?
So my whole life I've been severely asthmatic, and it's a real problem. It's not a strength or endurance thing. It's just how long my lungs are going to last.
Right.
And I noticed that with that Alt Red, it's like the problem I have is it feels like my lungs as they're filling up are just constrained by my rib cage, and I can never get a full breath.
Right.
And that Alt Red's kind of like I got an extra 3% of something. And right before my event, I was taking these huge breaths that I hadn't felt in a long time.
Wow.
And it was great. So usually the worst part that I struggle is the run.
Yeah.
I'm like the world's worst runner. I feel like a Mack truck on the 99. It's awful. But I was actually, that became my best thing because I had big lungs.
Right.
It's great.
I know.
The very next 2 days, I decided, maybe it was placebo. And so I didn't use it. No.
I don't think so either.
Game changer.
I don't think it's a placebo either. I really don't. So what do you do for your pre-workout though?
There's a couple of different products that I'll use.
Okay.
And I'll just cycle through them so I don't plateau.
Yeah. What are the names of them? Do you remember?
Well, there's the old classic C4.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's been around a minute.
A long time.
Yes.
And
they're everywhere.
There's one that I've used off and on for a couple of years called BioFreak.
Okay.
That's fantastic.
What does that do for you?
If I want to go flip Suburbans in the parking lot, I could probably do that. Yeah, I have to. That's in moderation. It says use 1 scoop. I'm like, I'm gonna do like a half a scoop.
Yeah.
I don't need my hair falling out or anything crazy. But yeah, I was really excited that and listening to each of your guests and hearing the things that work for them.
Right.
Like I totally picked up on that.
Oh, that's great. That's good stuff. I know for me, definitely I now just had the birthday 53. Definitely do testosterone boosters. A lot of people have a misunderstanding of what these do for you. Man, if you're between, let's say, I don't know, let's go ahead and say 45 to 55, right? We'll go in that bracket. You're a husband. You've settled in and put on the cruise control. You've clicked on, it's on mode, right? You're in life. You're somewhere in that ballpark of maybe a junior high to maybe a early 20s kid, maybe might be at home, finishing up school, or heading down that lane. And then you get complacent in your marriage and you get complacent with yourself, right? And we're talking about some pretty large contrasts in perspective here. But I think the thing is still the same. It's all mindset, right? Because if I get complacent, then what I do is I get complacent in my activity level, right? I stop walking, I stop hiking, I stop going out because I'm comfortable. Me and my wife were comfortable. We're good, right? And then you start taking things for granted, right? So I think it's a trickle effect. And am I saying, guys, that basically if you're not in the gym 5 days a week, yelling at the world while you're throwing up, 250, 300 pounds and, you're looking like Schwarzenegger. No, I'm not saying that. What I am saying, though, is having that mindset, and I know Joe would agree with this, is that if you have that mindset, you put it in place and you stay consistent, right?
Yep.
Your levels of fitness and health are going to produce a mindset about yourself. And those people that are around you, your wife, your children, your people in the marketplace are going to say, hey, been working out. Yeah. That's all you need to say is, yeah. You don't need to go into your whole detail, basically where you're at. If you want to, cool, whatever, but nobody cares. Nobody cares. They really don't. They just notice there's a difference. There's something that took place, and it all started here. So then what happens is the wife starts to notice, and she's like, hey, you've been staying pretty strong in this. What's the need for the big change? 2 reasons, family and yourself. You as the leader, you as the alpha male in the home, that is the leader, the guy, right? You've got to be that guy that sets the tone. Everything starts and finishes with the leader, right?
Well said.
So when we do that, then what comes in is the mindset to set goals, to set nutrition in place, to set physical challenges in place, right? So let's head down the road. Let's head down the road to the goal, the challenge. So you've done 2 DECA events now, correct? Or 3?
Technically 3.
Technically 3. So you did 2 individuals or 1 individual?
2 individuals, and then you're my team event.
Okay, so you've had a total of 3, 2 individuals, 1 team event. First of all, tell people about, tell our listeners out there that don't know about DECA. What's that all about?
So DECA is put on by the same organization that does the Spartan races. It's basically an indoor mostly event, I would say. There's 10 exercises, hence the DECA. And then there's 2 versions. There's you do these 10 exercises, and then in the intervals you run a certain distance that at the end of it adds up to a mile, so the DECA mile. And then there's
is that Greek for 10?
I'm sure it is. Yeah, it works.
I have no idea. I thought you would actually know that.
No, I think it is. Yeah, it's kind of like the Decalogue, right? And then
Joe is really smart, everybody, by the way. That's why I'm saying this. It's like I wouldn't surprise it. That's why I sent it across the bow. I wanted to see what he'd say.
Yeah, there's usually, Spanish is the second language class you take in high school. Like mine was actually Latin.
Yeah. Of course it was. Right? Of course it was.
And then there's the other version is the DECA Strong, which is the same 10 events minus the run.
Yeah.
That's the one I did the very first time.
Okay.
And man, I knew I was in trouble.
When did you realize that?
Probably on the second interval.
The second interval was like, oh my gosh, this is a big turd sandwich and I'm going to have to take a big bite right now.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the interval that you were on?
I want to say it was the skier. So it's the machine that's kind of like it's the new version of the NordiTrack is what I tell people.
Yeah.
And it was 500 meters on the rower, then 500 meters on the skier. And I hadn't done 500 meters on either of those things in probably 2 years. So then to do it back to back.
Yeah.
I knew I was in trouble.
And then you didn't have alt red in your system at that time.
I did not have the beat go-go juice.
The go-go juice, the juice of the gods, as they say.
So I think, bringing it back to having a plan and having structure, like that's been for me, it's been the big growth period.
Right.
Is that first time the reason I think I struggled is I didn't have a plan. I just showed up and thought it was going to work out for me, and it didn't. And then fast forward to what you and I did together, and there was a lot of forethought, planning, teamwork, discussion.
Yeah.
And when you and I crossed the finish line, I was thrilled.
Yes.
I was over the moon with how we did.
So now this is funny because your perspective, I enjoyed it fully. There was no doubt about it. But my forethought of that was tactics. The whole entire time, like I was thinking what I could have done better, what I learned from it, because it's two guys come together, and men understand this. This is definitely part of having that alpha mindset, is that you are stronger when you sharpen yourself with another dude. That's just the way it's going to be. You're going to challenge each other. You're going to encourage each other, as men should, and only how men can, in my perspective. I think that, if you get because I've seen guys do it with the woman partner, right? And we saw that day they did, man and woman teams. And so what I noticed was it was more of like, it was just nonchalant. It was like, hey, we're just going to show up. We're going to do the event. It's just really cool. Yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to kick some butt.
But as a quick aside, if you throw Morgan in that mix,
that's a different. Yeah, you can't put that. That's a different person altogether. Like she could be her own team.
I would be her baggage if I was paired up with Morgan.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
Who wouldn't?
I'm super proud of her.
Me too. She's savage. Morgan is the person that works out at our gym that is a very integral part of that community. She is how many titles does she have?
Well, let's do a quick 20-second shout out to Morgan.
Yeah.
So the very first time I met Morgan when she came into the gym, she and I believe we're the same height. I'm 5'10".
Yeah.
And she weighed, and this is her words.
Yes.
425 pounds is how much she weighed. And she was super nice.
Yes.
Well, fast forward to today, I want to say she's right at like 195-ish.
Yes.
And on the skier, the NordiTrack piece of equipment, the rower, there's I want to say there's 20 world records in each age group that you can have.
Right.
And of the 20 world records, she holds 18 of them. So to go from 425 pounds to now being a world-class athlete, she has mental fortitude and
insane.
Oh, bro.
But she's rare though. She's not common.
She's definitely one of a kind.
She is. Yeah. She is.
Yeah,
she is.
Shout out to Morgan.
100%. 100%. If I was going to team up with a female, that'd be the person as well. But I do think though, when you're going through that crucible of, dude, this sucks so bad. Like there was even, and I'll touch on this too, is that it was dead ball.
Yep.
It was dead ball. And the dead ball caught me really off guard because we'd been training and I was like, okay, I think I got 20 reps in me, but I'd done, majority of the running. And so when I came off that run and I had to do the dead ball, I was out of gas, man. I was like, I had like, I think it was like 15 or 12 or 15 of them somewhere around there. And I was like, Joe, I looked right at you and go, I'm done. This is all I got. Cause I had the tank. I think it was you had to go run and then I had to do the tank afterwards.
Something like that.
Something, somewhere. And so, and you just hopped into it, and that's not your event that you usually steer away from that event because certain physical challenges, but you just hopped in and did it. So tell me, like, what was that moment like for you?
Well, I think, kind of the overriding message to everyone that's listening is what Mike Tyson said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. We had a plan, that was for sure.
We did.
We had a plan.
But we did have a plan. We got punched in the face and we just kept on going.
Yes.
Right? Because it was like we've trained, we've been here, we've done that.
Right.
I know I'm going to embrace the suck.
Yes. Yes.
So, yeah, even though that is my physically severely limiting deal, I was ready for it.
You hopped right in like a champ. You always do. So when you guys are going, down that road of, feeling sorry for yourself or, how do I get started? How do I get motivated? Motivation, first of all, doesn't work. And I both know that. It's discipline. Let me guess. I think there's two more things. Discipline. Let me check the third one. Yes, it's discipline. It's discipline, guys. You got to create the discipline in yourself because nobody else is going to do it for you. You got to choose to do it, right? So how do you create the disciplines inside of yourself to get prepared for DECA through your training? If you can kind of like wrap all into 3 in 1, this is going to be a tough one. So your meal prep, how that impacts your training, how your training impacts the performance of DECA.
It all starts with accountability. Like I'm accountable to you and to the gym.
Yes, our coach.
And that I will be there.
Right.
4:30 we start. I'm there at 4:15 to get rolling.
Right.
So definitely having an accountability partner. And then number 2, like with meal prep and my sleep patterns and whatnot, being accountable to my wife is, we're a team. And we do things together, so I'm not going to leave her hanging. I do the grocery shopping, help out with all that. So that's the big overriding thing: accountability and showing up. Right? What do they say? Like 90% is just showing up.
Yeah, yeah. What about the guy that says I don't have the excuse of I don't have time? What do you say to that?
Well, I mean, that person is probably the same person. And, we're all busy, whatever your line of work is.
Sure.
We're all, going Mach 12 trying to make magic happen.
Right.
But, speaking for myself, I'll get stuck on an Instagram rabbit hole sometimes. And so I know there's time. If I'm honest with myself, I know there's time and I can make time. I had lunch with a good buddy today and they just had their second baby. And
awesome.
So he said, he's like, man, I don't have any time, because of family commitments and work. And I was like, I get that. Like, when do you go to bed? When do you get up?
Yeah.
And then when he answered those questions, I'm like, well, I mean, can you get up a little bit earlier? And he's like, actually, I can. I did that for years and I just stopped doing it. And this is his words, because I got lazy. So there is time and everybody can find time. Prioritize.
I agree with that. Key word, prioritize, priority. People tell me this all the time, and they say, "Well, you're a workout freak. You're crazy about being healthy." And then I usually respond with, "Why are you?" Because God promises 120 years is what He promises. Man is not supposed to live past 120 years. Okay, so why do you treat your promise like meaning your body, your temple? Our bodies are the temple that house the Spirit of Christ. Why do you treat your temple like you're only going to get 75 out of it, or 60, or maybe even 45, 50, right? So, I eat the crappy food. And guys, I'm not saying don't enjoy yourself, don't enjoy food, because Joe enjoys food. I'm
a huge foodie.
Do not let him fool you. The muscles will definitely tell on him and say foodie all the way. Eats good food, but also makes good, smart choices, right? Right. But if you're sitting there constantly just making these excuses that I don't have the time, then you look at yourself and you look at your family. How long do you want to be around? Right? Bible says that we don't know how many days we have on earth, but God knows the day. He knows the day of our birth and day of our death. I want to I'm not trying to necessarily move the needle, because if it's already ordained the days that I'm going to live, there's nothing that is going to change that.
Correct.
At all, right? Okay. But what I do in my stewardship. Hey, Alpha Man, if you guys are looking for some really cool gear, I just want to promote this company because I genuinely believe in it. It's called Seek Jesus. I've got their hoodie and I really enjoy it. It's nice and comfortable. It's got in really big letters on the back, Seek Jesus, a little bit of letters on the front that say the same thing. If you're looking to make a statement for Christ and you want to spark that conversation right off the get-go without even having to crack your Bible, I want you guys to go check them out. Check them out on Instagram or on the web. You can find them at www.seekjesus.co. Check out their clothing line. They've got hats, they've got shorts, they've got beanies. They've got everything you need to properly rep Jesus. Go check them out at www.seekjesus.co. Of that, right? Impacts my wife, impacts me, impacts the people in the marketplace where I work. It impacts people at the church that I attend, the people that I lead at church, right? Mm-hmm. My children, if you have children. It impacts them as well, because then, you're teaching them healthy values.
You're setting an example.
100%. 100%. So how long do you really want to be around? Do you want to breathe hard going up a flight of stairs, or do you want to be able to play with your children, into your senior years? I call them the silver years. Now, I don't know about golden. We'll see about that.
That's good. I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah, I'm going to go with silver. I'm digging the silver more so because I'm really close to the silver versus the gold. And I'm not a grandfather yet. Thank God I'm not a grandfather yet. But again, it's coming back to the mindset. It's definitely come back to mindset. So let's kind of, bring it back here. So we're into DECA. We've set this goal, and now we've got another event coming up in November, right? Mm-hmm. We got another team event that we're going to be doing. So what would you say to somebody that says, hey, because if we're going to talk about victory, we're going to talk about failure. The Miyagi-san is, failure is the best teacher, right? And it's true. It's okay to fail. I failed in some of my events. I did. I really failed. Now, is that according to other people's standards? No, that was according to my standard, because I know what I'm capable of, right? How do you deal with failure when you're attempting a hard physical and mental challenge?
Well, number one, like you just touched on, you recognize it, and then what do we do to correct it? And and taking ego out of it. And what I mean by that is, like the one thing that I know you shared with me that you struggled is like hitting a wall when it came to the assault bike.
Yeah.
And so rather than dwell on that, the solution is like, okay, well, what if we split it?
Right.
And that way, your or my limitations, like two brains are better than one type of a deal. So learning from where I've failed is my biggest thing. And I'm humble enough to admit, like, oh, I'm not good at that, or I can't do that. Mm-hmm. But hey, can you help me get better? And leaning on those around me, like that's been a big thing for me.
Don't you think it's where men sharpen men, though?
Absolutely.
Because you recognize some guys are too proud about it, but I think you guys sit there and go, well, hey, listen, I need you to, pull the rope a little bit, because I'm not there. And some days you show up on race day and you don't have it at all. That's happened to me before. I don't know if that's happened to you. Has that taken place where you were just like, you were prepped, you did everything, and then you're like, dude, I'm feeling a little out of it right now. Has that happened for you?
Yeah, not recently. When I was a kid, I was a competitive swimmer. Okay. And it would be like,
I did not know you were a competitive swimmer.
Really?
Now it's a new thing. Yeah. It's always, I always learn something new.
Super, I guess the 5 seconds on that, super fluke. It was like an Olympic prep deal. I was a good short course backstroker because the doctor had me start swimming because of the air was clean at the top of the pool. Okay. So because I was so asthmatic and on breathing machines, like it would help with my lungs. Mm-hmm. And then it was like, actually I'm halfway decent at this.
I'm okay. Yeah.
But I do remember a couple times that I struggled. And here's another good one about, you had paid me a really good compliment, which really meant a lot to me on humbleness. And this goes back to the, planning is, I got my first degree black belt in Taekwondo, and I got to be
another thing.
I would fight every Friday night.
He's a spy, everybody. I just want to let you know that he's a spy and a half. He doesn't tell anybody that, but he is.
But I remember my biggest lesson in humbleness, like it was yesterday, and it was at a tournament, and I had gotten to where I was pretty darn good.
Okay.
And I stepped in the ring, and the gentleman that was across from me was probably, 6 inches shorter, probably 80 pounds heavier, and mentally, this is 20 years ago.
Sure.
But mentally, all I could think is all the ways that I could probably take care of business.
Right.
And 10 seconds in, I got a round kick to the stomach that lifted me off the ground and threw me out of the ring.
What?
And even in that moment, I literally had the guy's red imprinted foot in my stomach for about 10 minutes.
Gosh.
But even in that moment, it was the best lesson. And obviously I lost, but that was for me, that was looking back at a trophy. Because if I would have won or whatever, I wouldn't have learned such a valuable lesson.
You didn't use the crane?
I couldn't move after that. Yes. If I could find that guy, I'd probably shake his hand now. But yeah, he helped set me on the right path.
He did. That's where failure is the best teacher. It's okay to fail. If the sooner that you embrace the lessons in failure, the better off of a man that you're going to become, and the stronger leader that you're going to be. Because I think it helps you to own your stuff,
and to talk about it with a lot of men. I think there's a level of whether you're ashamed of something, not like you did something bad, but you just don't want to talk about it, or you don't want people up in your business. And I totally get that, but everyone struggles, and leaning on those around you and talking about it,
right, and
looking to the men in your life for support. I think that's huge.
Yeah,
it's huge.
I equate that to like, if you've looked at a gearbox of any type, rather, even if it's a cog on bicycle, whatever it is, the more fine tuned it is, the more lubricant that you put in there, the spin, the efficiency of that happens, right? I think that's what you're touching on is being able to say, I don't have it all figured out. I failed in this. I let myself down, and I may have let the other person down, right? But I think that's where the efficiency comes into place, because you accept the lack that you have, right? And you're embracing that with another guy and saying, "Hey, listen, I need you to help me out," right?
Accountability.
Yeah.
Yep.
Accountability.
And again, the willingness to talk about it. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm struggling with this right now. Hey, can you just make sure that I'm, text me at this time, and make sure that I'll show up. I think being open to all of that is really, really important, and again, taking the ego out of it.
Pride.
Mm-hmm.
Pride.
Yes.
Ego. Hashtag real talk pride.
Well, they say it always goes before the fall.
It does. And in that fall they never say how far it is. I think it's
the bigger you get, the harder they fall.
Yes, exactly. So that more of that, if pride were, a cheese wheel, you want a very small slice of cheese is what you want. That's the goal for, right? If you have a big cheese wheel, man, you're gonna eat crap pretty hard. Who do you lean on? Because this is, I think, that what a lot of guys don't recognize in their leadership is, when it all goes bad, usually the leader's standing alone, right? Mm-hmm. Because he's leading others. He's exemplifying to other people. Who do you lean on?
My wife. Cookie and I, my wife, and I have been together for 23 years. Mm-hmm. She's my best friend in the galaxy, and she knows everything. She'll even
She
know
knows everything.
She knows what I'm thinking while I'm thinking. I haven't said a single word, and she's like,
You just look at her.
yeah, or she'll just look at me and
Yeah.
she'll know. But and I think that's for us, it's super healthy, and I treasure that part of our relationship. But yeah, I lean on her for everything. And if I'm struggling with something, I talk about it. I'm not ashamed of whatever it might be. And she'll give me, good ideas or, a loving perspective. And yeah. So what about you?
Well, as you would say, the big man, obviously we bring him into the conversation always, right?
Absolutely.
That should be always our go-to, our first check-in point is like, Lord, I don't know how I'm going to do this, how I'm going to accomplish this, but whatever I'm going to do, I know it's going to be for you, right? For me, I have a very small group of men, and I always put it into two perspectives, or actually two categories, I should say. One is all people fit in my life in one of two categories. You're either in a push or a pull. Majority of people, especially leaders, have alpha men have a lot of people in their pull department, people that they inspire, encourage, help, influence, whatever, buzzwords you want to put in there. There's a big pool of those people in their lives because they're doing it. They're making it happen. And so those people notice that and they call that person up and say, hey, what are you doing? I need to talk about this. So, hey, what are you doing in the gym? What are you, what supplements you taking? How do I fix this problem, right? You're always that go-to, so they're pulling on you, right, for whatever that influence is or that go-to, maybe a possible, perception or answer. The push is a really small group. Those are the guys that push me. So those guys, there's about 5 in there, and these guys know the ins and outs spiritually, mentally, physically. They even know my sin. They even know that. Now, they're not my confession booth. Mm-hmm. It's the place where I say, guys, I need this to be accountable. This hasn't released yet, and I don't want to spoiler alert this, but we talked about this very, very specific topic of accountability. You're giving an account of your ability, is what it is. And so Rick Jimenez talks about that. And
I'm excited to hear it.
Oh, dude, it's killer. It's so good. So what you're saying in that moment is, I'm going to hold an account of what I know and realize what your ability is, what you've shown me. That's the standard, is your ability to pray, your ability to have faith, your ability to embrace the suck, your ability to get up at 4:30 in the morning or 5 and do your 2-mile walk, rain or shine. That's your ability to love your wife unconditionally, even when she's not your favorite person in the galaxy. Because those days happen, right? I think it's the account of my ability, and I ask those guys to tell me how I need to rearrange that. Is what it does for me. I would say that you're kind of like you and Paul are like a superhuman because you guys keep me accountable. Because you know my ability, you've seen what I could do in the past, and you know what I'm capable in my mindset, and I never quit. Mm-hmm. I never stop. Right, yep. Right. I don't know. You tell me, like, what's that perspective on the other side of this from the accountability perspective? Because people ask me this question, I don't even know how to answer, and they're like, "What would people say about you if I asked them this question? What kind of guy, what kind of leader is Jimmy?"
For you?
Yeah.
So for me, about you.
Somebody's doing a little info on me, and they say, what would you say? What's this guy about?
Number one, you've got a huge heart. You're always warm and welcome to everybody around. Like, I've never seen a new person, and you and I mostly interact at the gym predominantly, right? So I've never seen any new person show up that you didn't immediately walk over and start talking to and make them feel welcome.
Right.
And I think that's a great example of leading by example. right? You're not going to say to other people, you should go be nice to, the person that, might not have worked out for a couple of years or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But you also talk about your faith in public, and I don't think a lot of, in this day and age, and we don't have to go down this dark rabbit hole, but
Sure.
People don't talk about their faith in Jesus
Yeah.
and their priorities in public. It's kind of something you do on a Sunday, and that's one thing I'm really proud of you is you talk about it and you tell stories. We can touch on just one thing. I don't know why. Like, I even thought about it. It was one of my favorite T-shirts. Is just hanging and thinking of Jesus being crucified, and you and I had a drill that we were doing where literally all we were doing is just hanging from a bar.
Yes.
And it was like,
Oh, so this last week.
yeah, it was like 30 seconds or something. And I remember after I was done, and you and I were like, I felt like someone blew up my arms, and I said, "Do you realize like they hung him there for hours? I couldn't even last 35 seconds." And they stapled him to it. Yeah. And it was, I was telling Cookie afterwards, I was like, it was so cool that Jim and I are having this conversation, around other people.
Other ears are hearing it. Yeah.
And I'm proud of you for always sharing your faith with people. It's cool. It's awesome, man.
Cool. I think that there's an accountability there though, because, now that you obviously you've known me for years, but you know that about me, that's an ability that you hold me accountable to, right? It's an expectation of that's what I know of that person, right? So if there was a step out of character, then you would obviously know and be like, hey, what's going on with that? There's something out of order here, right? Something's broken. Let's go find out, investigate what that is. For me, like I know when I show up, it's go to work time because I know two people are waiting on me, Paul and Joe. And then Paul goes over to the, Paul's our coach for all those of you that don't know. Paul goes over the whiteboard, and I can't speak for you, but I know for me, like, I already know it's going to suck. I already know. So I'm not going to flinch at it and jump in at any time, interject, is that I know it's going to be doable, but I know it's going to be harder than I'm really wanting to do. Right?
Absolutely.
Right?
All of those things. Yes.
Right? And then when he says, I've got something new, that's when my eyes kind of go a little wider and I'm like, oh crap, this is going to be stupid hard. Like, and then I settle into it and I go, but wait a minute, we do hard like every single day, right? Every day we show up to the gym, it's hard, it's difficult. Embracing the suck. What does that mean for you, Joe? Because that's a common word that people like to. It's now a catchphrase, right? How many times have you heard?
I've seen it on T-shirts now.
Exactly. Embrace the suck. What does that mean?
It means for me that it's a character building deal, and I don't want to do it, but I appreciate the moment I'm having in the moment it occurs. So as you and I are standing at the whiteboard together, and Paul will say, hey, have you guys heard about the new gym challenge of the month? I'm like, oh
crap.
What crazy Inquisition device are we going to get strapped to?
Right. Yeah.
But again, it's like even standing there, and it'll give me kind of chills on whatever this torture is going to be. I know that it's going to be good for me. It's going to test me.
Right.
And I appreciate that for what it is. And I don't complain about it. I just get in there and do it. It's that whole 3, 2, 1, go.
It is 100%. We're gonna come back. We're gonna take a quick break and come right back to the 3, 2, 1 and continue that discussion on Brace the Suck. We'll be right back.